Debt.
That was the word they weaponized first. Not hello. Not, we're sorry to show up unannounced. Just debt, heavy, cold, and dropped like a bomb on my kitchen table. My mom pushed a manila folder toward me. It's worse than we thought. We're in serious trouble, Riley. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes already angry. We need you to step up for the family. I glanced at the paperwork. It wasn't official, not at first glance. Just printouts of loan balances, interest rates, vague statements. Mom's voice cracked. The money's gone. The payments are months overdue. We could lose everything. You have a house, Riley. You can help. We need you to sell it, Dad added. You're not married, no kids. You can always get another place. I stared at them. This house wasn't a gift. It wasn't inherited or handed down. I bought it with income from my online store, every handmade product, every customer email, every 2 a.m. inventory night.
Me.
And now they wanted it. Mom sniffled. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. We've already taken a hit co-signing for your brother's dorm back then. We can't risk another collection on our name. There it was. The subtle dig. The reminder that they had helped me once, years ago, with $2,000 toward a college dorm I paid off within 6 months. Dad leaned forward. This store thing of yours, we don't blame you. You tried. But it wasn't enough. The timing, the taxes, whatever it was, we're not angry. We just need to fix it. They weren't asking. They were telling me I was the reason they were struggling. Your small business ruined our finances, Mom said flatly. Now fix it. I should have screamed. Should have flipped the table. Should have told them what I already knew. But instead, I just nodded.
Calm.
Cold. Okay, I said. Mom blinked. Okay, let's go to the bank. I'll sign whatever I need to. But we're doing it the right way, with a manager present. Everything on record. They agreed a little too eagerly, because they thought they had me. They didn't know I'd spent the last 48 hours rebuilding this exact folder, not with assumptions, but with facts. They didn't know I'd already called the bank and verified the account number they so conveniently forgot. They didn't know I'd asked to speak to the loan officer who opened the file, or that he'd confirmed the truth over a recorded call. Because this debt wasn't mine. The balance wasn't tied to my name. The money wasn't used to cover any business taxes. And the loan had Ethan's signature on it. My brother. The golden boy. The one they never questioned. The one who crashed 2 cars, got bailed out of college debt, and still got a birthday trip to Mexico last year. I didn't say anything as I walked them to the door. I just smiled. Because I wasn't going to argue about my worth. I wasn't going to defend my business. I was going to let the bank manager do it for me. My name is Riley. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because they came to take my house. But I came to take back the truth. And what they find out next will change everything. Being blamed wasn't new. I was always the one who cost too much, asked too many questions, and needed too much attention. My brother Ethan? He was the miracle. The one who could wreck the car and still be met with. He's just under pressure. He'll bounce back. I once came home crying after getting an A- because I knew it wouldn't be enough. Mom said, "Don't overreact. You're not failing. Yet." Meanwhile, Ethan failed 2 semesters of college and still got a new laptop. They never called it favoritism, but it was always there, in the way they spoke to him, like he was made of potential. And, to me, like I was made of burden. Even when I started my online store, candles, custom home pieces, little things I poured hours of design into, they rolled their eyes. "That's cute," Dad said once. "But when are you going to get a real job?" "It's a hobby, not a future," Mom added. When I made my first $10,000 month, I told no one. Because when you're the family's punching bag, even your success becomes something they'll either minimize or take credit for later. I saved quietly, bought my home quietly, renovated the guest room into a shipping space, labeled every box with my own hands. Ethan, meanwhile, floated from one dream to the next. First it was crypto, then personal training, then some sports consulting, hustle, where he claimed he'd land professional athletes as clients. All funded by mystery money. Dad once gave him $5,000 to clear his head after a breakup. Mom let him use her credit card just this once, for a drone and GoPro he never used. But when I once asked to split the bill at dinner, you'd think I'd set fire to the table. You're the one with the business, Mom snapped. We paid for so much when you were younger. You owe us. I was always in debt to them, emotionally, financially, even spiritually, because daughters like me aren't raised to thrive. We're raised to repay. So when they came storming into my home blaming me for the family's debt, it wasn't new. It was just louder. The tone was familiar. You cost us. You failed us. You owe us. But this time, they messed up. Because while they assumed Ethan was spotless, I was already staring at his signature. I'd found the loan document 3 days earlier when I called the bank to verify the account. I wasn't even looking for a name. I just wanted the truth. And the bank manager hesitated before saying it. It was taken out last year. Under your parents' joint name, co-signed by Ethan Mercer. For a vehicle. Luxury class. A vehicle? Ethan told them he was driving a loaner from a sponsor. He lied. And that debt, the one they blamed on me, was the result of his sports car joyride. I didn't tell them yet, because they needed to walk into that bank feeling proud, ready to humble me, ready to crush me with paperwork and pressure and guilt. Let them walk in smug. I wanted the silence. I wanted the moment, because this time, they were going to hear the truth. Not from me, from their own damn son. After they left my house, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, not crying, not panicking, just staring at the folder they left behind. At first glance, it looked convincing: past due balances, lender names, interest rates, minimum payments due. But something didn't sit right. They claimed the debt was tied to missed business taxes, supposedly mine, but I've been using the same small business accountant for 4 years. I knew my books were clean. I paid early. I kept records. My accountant's literal motto was receipts or it didn't happen. So, I did what they never expected. I read, carefully, line by line. I started cross-referencing the papers with my own records. None of it matched. The debt account wasn't under my EIN. The business name they listed wasn't even mine. It was a shell name I'd never seen. And then came the real tell. A reference number at the top of a loan summary. For digits I didn't recognize. I called my bank and gave them the number. Told them I was trying to verify a supposed lien on my business account. The rep pulled up the file. That's not tied to a business account, ma'am. It's a personal loan. Issued to 2 primary account holders. Joint. I sat up straighter. Whose names? She paused. I'm sorry. I can't share that. I asked to speak to a manager. She transferred me. He answered, older voice, calm tone. I told him the situation, that my parents were blaming me for a debt I knew wasn't mine. There was a long silence before he asked, Are you Riley Mercer? Yes. I can confirm this much. The loan was taken under your parents' name. It was co-signed. Not by you. I didn't breathe. Who co-signed it? I asked. He paused. Then, Ethan Mercer. Signed last June. I almost laughed. Of course it was June. That was when he posted a blurry Instagram story from inside a convertible, captioned, Manifesting what I deserve. I thanked the manager. Asked for a copy of the original paperwork. He agreed, said if I brought my ID and came in person, he'd walk me through the file. I scheduled the appointment for Monday. Then I called Ethan. No answer. So I did what every woman raised in gaslight land learns to do. I baited him. I sent a casual voice message. Hey, just saw Mom and Dad. They're saying I caused the family debt. I know that's not true, but if you know something I don't, now's the time to tell me. He responded with a voice note 5 minutes later. What he didn't know. I recorded the whole thing. Look, I didn't think it'd blow up like this. I needed the car to look successful, okay? The flipping thing didn't work out, but I had a plan. I was gonna pay it back. Mom and Dad never knew I used their names. But they'd be fine once it was done. Fine? They were about to lose their retirement account. And he thought they'd be fine. I saved the recording. Backed it up twice. Printed the transcript. Because when we walked into that bank, I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to return their guilt gift-wrapped in truth. The lobby was too quiet when we walked in. My mother looked polished. Pearls, perfume, false pride. My dad looked serious, like a man ready to make a daughter feel small. I looked calm, because I wasn't here to argue. I was here to watch the floor fall out from under them. We were escorted into a private meeting room by Mr. Gilliam, the same manager I'd spoken to on the phone. He smiled politely at them. Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, thank you for coming. Ms. Mercer, let's get started. They nodded like they'd done this before. Like they were professionals, respectable, justified, the injured party. Mom placed the manila folder on the table like evidence in court. We're here because Riley agreed to assist with the loan payoff tied to her business. We just need the paperwork finalized to begin the house transfer process. I said nothing. Gilliam flipped open a much thicker, official folder from the bank side. He cleared his throat. There's been some confusion about the debt in question, and we want to clarify it. Mom smiled. Dad tapped his pen. Please, Dad said. Let's make this easy. Gilliam turned a page, then another, and then, calmly, he slid one paper forward. This is the loan you're referring to. Balance, $82,900. Originally taken out in June of last year. He slid it closer to my parents. Signed by the primary account holders, Mr. and Mrs. Mercer. My parents nodded. And co-signed by. He flipped the page slowly. I watched the moment it hit. Their faces. Frozen. Pale. Ethan Mercer. Silence. Gilliam let the page sit there like a brick on the table. Ms. Mercer here is not attached to this loan in any way. There is no business name listed. No tax ID. This was not a business debt. It was a personal loan used for a vehicle, a high-end sports model, based on our underwriting notes. Mom's eyes widened. What? That's not possible. Dad leaned forward. You must be mistaken. Riley's business is the one that. No, Dad, I said quietly. You're mistaken. Ethan took out a loan using your names. You co-signed something you didn't understand, and you let me take the fall for it. They turned to me, mouths open, but I didn't stop. I reached into my bag and pulled out the final nail. And, just in case you need more proof, I pressed play on my phone. Ethan's voice filled the room. They never knew I used their names. But they'd be fine once it was done. Mom gasped. Dad looked like he'd been punched. I let the recording finish. Gilliam, still professional, folded his hands. Given this context, Ms. Mercer has no legal or financial responsibility to this loan. We strongly suggest you consult with your son and your attorney. I stood up. Calm. Unshaken. You came to make me your scapegoat again. You wanted me to sell my home, my life, to cover his mess. And you didn't even bother to check the paperwork. Mom's voice cracked. Riley, we didn't know. You didn't care. I walked out. They didn't follow. They couldn't. Because for once, the evidence spoke louder than their shame. And this time, I didn't have to lift a single finger to burn their house of lies down. I didn't hear from them for 2 days. Not a call. Not a text. Then, on the third morning, I woke up to a frantic voicemail from my dad. It's Ethan. He says you ambushed him. What the hell are you trying to do? You didn't have to play that recording. We could have worked this out like a family. That word again. Family. A word they only pulled out when I was useful. I listened to it once, then deleted it. Because here's what they didn't understand. I wasn't trying to destroy Ethan. He'd already done that himself. All I did was let the truth breathe. Later that day, a friend sent me a screenshot from Ethan's private Instagram story, which, clearly, wasn't as private as he thought. It was a close-up of the sports car in question, a matte gray two-door coupe with vanity plates that read playoff. The caption? Guess who finally paid off his ride? #HustlerLife, #grindset. Posted 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Before my parents showed up at my house crying broke. Before they tried to rip my keys out of my hands to save a lie they didn't even know existed. That image went into my digital evidence folder. Not because I needed it for court, because it was mine. Proof that every time they looked me in the face and said, "You ruined us," they were protecting the real wrecking ball. And now, their golden boy was radioactive. I heard through a mutual cousin that my parents finally confronted him, and it wasn't calm. Mom screamed. Dad threw a coffee mug. Ethan denied it at first, then tried to spin it. I did it for us. I was trying to elevate. It was gonna work. Then, like every coward does when backed into a corner, he blamed them. You should have read what you were signing. For once, the guilt didn't land on me. It landed where it belonged, squarely in the center of the house they built on illusion and convenience. Meanwhile, the bank had begun the collection process. The loan was too far gone. Their credit? Tanking. I got another voicemail from Mom. Her voice hoarse, unfamiliar. We were wrong. About all of it. About you. We should have asked questions. We should have looked harder. We didn't know. No, they didn't. Because they never bothered to know. They were too busy believing Ethan's smoke while trying to suffocate my fire. But the damage wasn't just inside the house now. It was leaking. One of their friends, the chairwoman of the neighborhood board, found out about the debt. Apparently, she overheard part of the bank blow up while waiting for her appointment. By the end of the week, their shame was making the rounds. Polite whispers like razor blades. They tried to steal from their daughter. Thought they raised a CEO, but it was just a con man in Gucci. You know Riley paid for that house herself, right? Girl built an empire while they backed a liar. I didn't say a word. Didn't post. Didn't subtweet. Didn't gloat. Because I didn't need to. Their legacy was falling apart in real time. And for once, it had nothing to do with me. I thought Ethan would fight. Lie harder. Spin faster. Find some twisted way to make himself the victim, or worse, the hero. But when I saw him next, he looked hollow. It was at a family cookout. Not mine. I don't host those anymore. But a distant cousin invited me, not knowing the drama, just trying to be polite. I went curious. Not for revenge. For confirmation. To see the boy they worship standing in the wreckage they used to call potential. And there he was. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Slouched shoulders. He didn't even park the sports car. Because it had been repossessed. Turns out, after the bank launched full collection efforts and placed liens on my parents' accounts, the repo company swooped in fast. The car he bought on their names? Gone. The business he said he was launching? Didn't exist beyond a Canva pitch deck and 3 fake LLC documents. His Instagram? Scrubbed. Deleted. His friends? Silent. The moment the money ran out, so did the crowd. But I didn't go near him. I just watched. From across the lawn, he glanced at me once, and that was all it took. His shoulders sank even lower. He knew I wasn't coming over. Because this time, he had to sit in it. Alone. The same way I did when I was 25, curled on the floor of my first shipping room, crying because a customer threatened to sue over a broken candle and I had $6.19 to my name. I sat in it, built through it, owned it, and no one, not even my family, offered me a lifeline. Now, it was Ethan's turn. Later that night, my parents tried to call me. Again. This time it was Dad's voice on the voicemail. We can't believe how blind we were. He fooled all of us. I thought he had it under control. Pause. And we took it out on you. You didn't deserve that. Pause. I know it's too late. But we're proud of what you've built. I saved the message. Not because I needed it, but because I want a record of what finally broke them. Not my failures. Their own faith in the wrong child. They gambled everything on Ethan. And when it all burned, they came running to the daughter they left in the cold. But I didn't open the door. I didn't rage. I didn't post screenshots. I didn't demand apologies on my knees. I just kept moving. I had client calls, inventory to restock, an upcoming launch with a sustainable brand that had been following me for 2 years. My life had outgrown them. And that was the real revenge. Not watching Ethan fall, but realizing I didn't care whether he got back up. Because I was no longer living in reaction to their chaos. I was no longer the sibling in the shadows. I was the one with stability, peace, control, and no more need to prove a single thing. Ethan's collapse wasn't my triumph. My boundary was. I didn't plan to go public. For a long time, I believed dignity was quiet. That growth meant walking away with your head high and your mouth shut. But silence is only powerful if you chose it. And mine was forced. For years, I swallowed the guilt, the blame, the shame of being the problem child. I let them call my business a hobby. I let them call my stability luck. I let them say I should be grateful they let me stay. I was done letting them say anything. So I wrote a post. Not a rant. Not revenge porn. Just a clear, honest caption above a photo of my first apartment floor, covered in bubble mailers and handwritten thank you cards from customers. I started here. Alone. Laughed at, overlooked, called a dreamer. Years later, my family tried to take the home I bought to cover a debt I didn't create. They said it was mine. It wasn't. I stayed silent to keep the peace. But silence doesn't protect you. It protects them. I'm not silent anymore. The post blew up. Not viral in a celebrity way, viral in a real way. Women commented. I was the scapegoat too. My brother stole my credit score. Thank you for saying this. They said I was selfish when I refused to bail the family out. I cried reading this. People didn't just read my story. They saw themselves in it. That's when the DMs started flooding in. Then podcast invites. Then panel requests. A week later, I sat down on a podcast titled Quiet No More and spoke into the mic for the first time without trembling. My name is Riley. I built my life in silence because speaking up made me the villain. But if they call you a problem every time you ask to be respected, maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the problem is what they want you to accept. That clip alone got 2 million plays. The next day, I launched a new branch of my store. Not yours. Statement pieces. Minimalist designs. Every product labeled with phrases like, daughter, not doormat. Silence was never consent. Not the backup plan. Built without permission. It sold out in 4 hours. I donated part of the proceeds to a fund that helps women reclaim financial identity after family credit abuse. Something I wish I'd had. Then I created a space. The Riley Mercer Grant. $5,000 for first-time women entrepreneurs building their business with no support. In the application, one question. What's one thing they said you'd never do? I wasn't just moving on. I was planting flags. Because being erased doesn't mean you stop existing. It just means it's time to paint your story on the walls they tried to push you out of. And when they see your name there, they'll know you didn't just survive. You rewrote the whole script. They asked to meet one last time. Not over the phone. Not through voicemails. In person. We like to talk, my mom texted. Face to face. I hesitated. Not out of fear, but calculation. I didn't know them anything. But something in me said, let them see who you became. So I agreed. But not at my home. Not on their terms. I chose the location, my office. The headquarters of a business they once called a cute distraction. The space built on every late-night hustle, every doubted move, every ignored win. When they arrived, they looked nervous. Mom clutched her purse like it was armor. Dad looked older, smaller. Even Ethan came, hands in his pockets, face drawn tight. I offered no hugs, no smiles, just a seat. They sat. The silence was heavier than their apologies could ever be. Dad spoke first. We've been watching. Seeing what you've done. It's impressive. I nodded once. Mom leaned forward. We were wrong. About everything. We blamed you for a mess that wasn't yours. We should have believed you. I said nothing. Ethan cleared his throat. I was selfish. I get it now. I ruined things for everyone, but especially you. I'm sorry, Riley. It all sounded sincere. Polished. Almost rehearsed. Then Mom said the thing I knew was coming. We just want to move forward. Start fresh. Be a family again. There it was. The real ask. Not forgiveness. Access. They wanted back in. Back into the comfort. Back into the house they tried to steal. Back into the life I built without them. I stood, walked to the window, then turned and finally spoke. You blamed me, shamed me, tried to take from me, and never once stopped to ask how I was even surviving. They stayed silent. You wanted me to sell my house, to fix a lie someone else wrote, because it was easier to point at the daughter you never understood than to look at the son you raised like royalty. Mom opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. You thought I'd go quietly. That I'd swallow it again. That's what shocked you, not the loan, not the car, not the mess. What shocked you was that I didn't break this time. They all looked away. So I gave them what they came for. A line they never forget. You want to start fresh? Start with yourselves. Because I already did. And it didn't include any of you. Mom started to cry. Ethan said nothing. Dad just nodded, like deep down he finally understood. I walked to the door. Opened it. They left without another word. No drama. No begging. No, we'll change. Just the sound of a door closing behind them. Not slammed. Not locked. Just done. That night, I stood in the hallway of my home, the one they tried to take, and looked around. Light. Clean. Quiet. Mine. My phone buzzed a notification. Order #8/624 confirmed. Then another. Riley Mercer grant recipient number 4 funded. I smiled. Because this was the legacy they never imagined I'd build. One that didn't just survive their absence, it thrived in it. They blamed me for what they were too afraid to face. I didn't fight them. I just showed them who I became when they stopped holding me down.